screen. It just kind of got a little confusing. So, over the course of development, we kind of reapproached lighting in different aspects. And John, our lighting artist, I think did a wonderful job on these two DLC maps, taking all the things that he's learned from the previous maps and applying them here, where we have, in this map we have a very distinct inside the Foundry and an outside the Foundry feel. And I think when you're inside the Foundry, it feels dank, it feels dirty, it feels musky. And then when you go outside, it feels dusty and deserty. When I play this map, I feel the distinct lighting differences between the two different distinct areas.
Yeah, well, it occurred to me when he was running underneath some of that grating, and it's very sort of throws me back to the ship in Alien when you're kind of walking around and there's lights coming through grates. And it's sort of dark and moody.
And we didn't, and this map has it has the most proportionate size of indoor area to any other map. And so that was a huge challenge for John when he was lighting this, is how do you light this indoor area with the same lighting mechanics as the other maps?
Right,
So all this uplighting from grates and stuff, really add to that atmosphere and makes it feel unique.
Yeah, because we've got that sort of moody evolved feel in a different way than we get in the forest.
Yeah,
and it seems to work really well.
It's so crazy. When we were first doing this map, one of my concerns was I didn't want to alienate the players the way they felt playing the original maps. In all the original maps, it's a very natural outdoor environment, a very natural organic area that you're fighting in. And I thought when we decided to do this map, I was like, oh well, what are the players going to think when they're running around on all these hard surfaces and all these square edges and all this kind of man-made elements. And as we developed the map more and more and incorporated newer ideas, it made me realize how strong the core of Evolve is. The map, yes, it does change how you play the game, but the game of Evolve can't be changed by a map. You're still hunting, you're still chasing, you're still having these arena fights with the monster. It just really, really kind of hammers home the idea of how strong the core idea of Evolve is, and I think that's a really cool testament to the design of the game in general. And then to be able to do this kind of cool stuff with maps, to do this cool Foundry that's this big facility where they process ore, and it's got this huge, cool, what we call Slag Town, which is where you're seeing right now, where the inhabitants live and unwind. It's just a really cool way of kind of broadening our horizons with maps.
And I think there's something for the people who are really into lore as well, just because you're running by a nightclub and you're like, what on earth goes on in a nightclub on Sheer?
Exactly.
These colonists need to blow off steam somewhere, but what on earth does that entail? So I find that really interesting. Getting an orbital. I like that the plants here seem so different. These are desert plants.
Yep.
But they still feel a little different, and maybe it's the context.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you hit it. That's exactly it. It's the context. It's where it's at. It's how it's placed. It's the density of it. It's the configuration of it. In a lot of the desert maps, like Desert Canyon, or I guess I can't call it Desert Canyon. That's the developer name of it.
Yeah.
But, the dam map.
Right.
The way we utilized assets in the previous maps was we wanted to feel very natural and very organic. In this map, it's a constructed area. They bulldozed and then weeds and stuff grew back and stuff.
Right.
So it doesn't have that same organic feel to it, and so it lends itself to feeling different. And is that a new type of vegetation that I haven't seen before? No, you've seen it before. It's just not in the same context.
Sorry, that was a really good rock throw.
Yeah, the monster's doing pretty well right now.
Yeah, I want to see stage 3. While they're sort of running around and potentially dying horrible deaths, we have. Am I correct in thinking that these maps can be generated in evacuation?
Yep, they're 100% plug and play.
So that means they have map effects.
They have map effects.
What are the map effects on Foundry?
So Foundry's map effects, we wanted to... Stage 3, nice. We wanted to utilize the borium ore aspect. So for Foundry, if the monster wins, he gets what we call burning hands. And that's
alright, that sounds dangerous.
Basically the monster dips his hands in molten ore and now has a damage buff.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's very cool. And if the hunters win?
If the hunters win, they get a jetpack boost.
Cool.
So it's a better jetpack, flying farther, all that kind of stuff.
As though the Boreum has sort of added to the efficiency of their jetpack.
It's like imagine Back to the Future 2 and Doc comes down and he's putting the banana peel and the beer can into the
They
reactor.
upgraded to a fusion reactor.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Ours is Boreum.
Oh, we actually have one of our level designers.
Which one is he playing?
Yeah, who's he playing, Jess?
He's medic?
He's playing support.
So Thomas, one of our other level designers, is currently playing medic. He's
support.
Oh, sorry, support.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he's playing support. He's the one that. So when we did these two maps, we actually did something new for us, which was to double up level designers on these maps. So Chris and Nick did the Foundry, and Thomas and I worked together to do the mine map.
Very cool. And he is also the owner of one of the thickest beards I think I've ever seen in my life.
Coolest beards.
It's a nice beard. He was like, I don't know if I can grow one, but I'll try for no clip till ship. And then...
It was a close... Yeah, he has one of the coolest beards ever.
It was impressive. Let's see. I had a question. Someone's asking for tips on how to get into the industry as a level designer.
You know...
Kind of a tough question.
I unfortunately can't give any concrete advice because I kind of got a little lucky. 3D Realms at the time, when they were hiring, they were specifically looking for somebody from the mod community. You know, I had been modding Doom 3 maps and stuff like that. So they were looking for somebody that was like fresh and new and had passion, you know. So I kind of got a little lucky getting into the industry. You know, but to be honest, a lot of people I know that are in the industry oftentimes start out as QA. And QA is one of those, you know, if you love playing games, then could you do it for 8 hours? And if you could do it for 8 hours, can you pick out the bugs? Like, you know, you guys play this game all the time, and you see little things that are out of place or little quirks that could be fixed or little bugs, and you know that's all QA is really is playing these maps so many times that you want to throw up, but you know the map.
And you know as soon as something's broken.
Exactly.
Good eye for detail. And it's not just like playing a game like you'd play a game for fun. It's playing the same thing over and over and over again until you break it.
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah, I've heard that's a good way to get in. And it's just, like you said, you know, you were doing mods in your own time as a hobby, and I think that there's a lot to be said for, you know, there's free engines now that you can play around in.
Yeah.
So doing stuff in your own time.
Using Unity is a really great way to kind of familiarize yourself with the process of creating content for a game. You know, I think if you're passionate about it and you're dedicated and you're persistent about wanting to get into the industry, you have to explore all avenues. And one of those avenues is doing your own thing, you know, designing your own stuff, creating a portfolio that you can go to a developer and say, hey, I want to be a level designer for you guys. Well, they're not just going to hire you because you're passionate, you know, let's see what you can do. Let's see what your work is.
And even if it's not like pro level work, the fact that you had the initiative to do it and put it together and you know, there's some raw ideas there, that's definitely going to help. Let's see, we had another,
Oh, awesome.
Okay, cool.
So, to go back real quick to your other question, or to your other question about the map effects. So Foundry was Burning Hands, which is a damage over time type of thing, extra damage from the monster, and then Jetpack Boost. The mine has its own too, and
is that flipped? Because I think they're on Foundry.
Well, so they're going to use one of the map effects from the mine.
Oh,
because
okay.
It's next to it.
Okay, cool.
So if the monster wins on the mine, we do seismic. Or, seismic, no.
Thomas? Tremors?
Tremors, but for some reason that's confusing me because, so what the tremors do basically is, throughout a match, the ground will tremor and shake, causing all the birds in the map to flock.
Ah!
So
as a hunter, you're like,
exactly.
I have no idea.
As a monster, it's super beneficial because now if I see a tremor, go nuts, go anywhere you want.
Right.
You know, forget about sneaking and dodging that bird. They're all scared.
Oh my goodness. That's pretty cool. I
So
like that.
The other effect is support drones. So in the mine, there's a couple locations where you can actually see this. We have little mining drones that are drilling holes and extracting ore and stuff. And they've been converted to shielding drones. So instead of drilling, they're now shielding. So we should be able to see some of that if they're using that effect. I think that's what they said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we should see some hunters you'll see these little floating drones around him shielding him.
Shield drone sounds
Shield drones.
really familiar for some reason. So let's see. What ideas did you come up with when brainstorming about the themes new maps might have? For example, these new maps seem to have an urban industrial theme.
Yeah.
What other ideas were there?
That was actually one of the first things that one of the other level designers, Chris Holmes, said. He said, I want to do something a little bit more urban, a little bit more man-made, a little bit more structured, a little bit more familiar. And so, you know, and like I said before, I was a little leery about it at first because it's such a disconnect between the other maps you played. Every other map has natural, organic environment. So it was really, you know, when this map first started, in fact, it was much smaller. It was kind of this little tiny foundry at the base of a cliff, and there was this big open, wild, natural aspect to it on the outside. And just over time, we kept pushing the man-made element and seeing how far we could get away with it. And over time, we found that, you know, like I said, the core mechanics of Evolve really lend itself to really cool, unique map designs, because now we can do these cool, unique environments without worrying about alienating the core feeling of Evolve.
Well, I think it's so easy, you know, when you're running around in, oh goodness, what's its real name? Think of it as Forest Ruins.
Nuclear power plant, the power plant map.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Fusion map.
Fusion map. Yeah.
I don't.
Fusion plant.
I never
there we
committed.
go.
I never committed the friendly names to
We're
memory.
terrible.
You know, we use the dev
names.
names so much that you kind of.
Yeah.
Those are the first things that come to your mind, like, oh.
It's what you're saving all your files as.
Yeah, exactly.
But you forget that there's a colony on this planet. You know, people were here. That's the whole reason you're here. Is you were. Wait,
did they take the?
They locked themselves in a dome, and the monster was outside. That's funny.
That's awesome.
We're seeing some lovely
right here,
savage skin.
You can actually see, if you can peek over the right side of the monster's screen.
Monster.
That's where the mine is.
I think they're busy.
Yeah, he's busy
chuckling about how funny that was.
But if he ever gets back over here and you guys are watching, over the side of that fence area, straight ahead, on this other side is, if you drop off that side, that's where the mine is.
Oh, cool. And then there's some those cranes.
Yeah, there's some higher elevations in this map where you can clearly see it. It's a really cool vista.
Yeah, I like that sort of thing. Like, I know we had a moment, some of you might be familiar with, where we discovered that the beam team can jump rope.
That was awesome.
And so it's really fun to do things like that. When you're fighting a monster, maybe he's kind of new, and you're like, oh, we'll take it easy on him. So you just kind of hang out and chill for a bit, and you're just like, enjoy the scenery. And you're enjoying this person's work as well as the rest of the level design team. So I'm sure they'd appreciate that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and you know, one of the biggest challenges that they faced in this map was really trying to figure out how to raise the quality, the bar of aesthetics, you know, to really make it feel next gen, to make it feel like you're pushing your, you know, if you're a PC player, you know, I got a beast at home, and I really wanted to push my computer to the limits. You know, I want to use, you know, the CryEngine is a beautiful engine, it's great to use, and it offers a level of quality that few other engines can do. And so we really wanted to try to utilize that. And I think I think the entire art team, the lighting team, the VFX team, the sound team, everybody did a really, really good job stepping up to the plate and really taking these maps to the next level. I think when you guys get to play these, you're really going to immediately feel that step up in quality.
Well, and like, as you mentioned sound design, I mean, there's a lot of new surfaces that Craig got to find sounds for, which is very cool.
You know, and when we're doing these maps, you know, of course we kind of try to plan the design and how it's going to play and what elements go into it, what's the thematic design. But at the same time, there's a lot of on-the-spot decision-making that has to go on. Oh crap, we decided to do a glass surface and we don't have glass footstep sounds.
Right.
We got to make glass footstep sounds, you know, that kind of stuff. Not to say that there's glass footsteps or anything like that. It's just an example.
Oh man, that orbital. But yeah, so then Craig goes into his little room and pulls out a piece of glass and like some shoes. And I actually recorded some Foley stuff for him in these shoes, in fact.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he was like, he heard me walking around the office and was like, your shoes sound fantastic. And I was like, well, that's a compliment I've never had before. But yeah, he was like, yeah, you should come and let me record those. So I went in there and we had different things and I just like, you know, stepped on them and practiced like kind of pretending to run, and it's a really cool process. I should get Craig on here to talk about Foley at some point. I think It's really interesting.
It really
see,
is.
Like plastic buckets and like ferns and just the random stuff.
I think our game has some of the coolest unique sounds for weapons and Foley and character movement, like when you hear bucket running, that clank, 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 like a half-empty
Which
toolbox.
makes sense.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to point out here, I'm watching the top screen here, and they're kind of switching back between different hunters and the monster, is I've yet to see the monster have an advantage in distance. The hunters, are, of course, these are capable players.
Right.
But it's kind of a testament to how these maps play differently. These maps are a little bit more, like I said before, close combat or intimate. The monster definitely has the opportunity to get away and hide and sneak and lose the monsters, but at the same time, the way these maps are designed is it's taking some of that guesswork out of tracking the monster and making it so it feels like you're naturally tracking the monster and not aimlessly wandering around in some situations that you might find.
Yeah, I think.
And especially for newer players, when you first drop into the map, especially in the mine map, when you drop in, there's only 3 areas he can be.
Right.
Taking that guesswork out, really allows the player then to utilize their character.
Oh, this trapper.
The trappers.
Trapper's dropping the ball.
Yeah.
And dropping the arena in the wrong place too. But I think this is kind of similar to what we said about the mine. Is that like this is for players who if you're let me start over. A problem that we see with a lot of beginning monsters is that they just want to run away.
Straight. They beeline.
And it's not great in any map because you need to engage in a cyclical fashion. Engage, get a strike, take their damage down, mess with some wildlife that aggroes them, go away, get armor, come back, do it again. And that's sort of the pacing that is intended with Evolve. So a smaller map should kind of, for anybody who hasn't developed those good habits by now, this kind of map will sort of force that because that tactic's not going to work.
Yeah, it'll kind of drive home the fact of the mechanics of the game are there because we feel that those mechanics create cool, unique situations and fun combat.
I think somebody's going to go in that plant in a minute.
Of
Just
course.
off to the right. It's happening.
Chris Holmes, the level designer, one of the level designers that worked on this map, he was responsible for placement of all carnivores. I know I'm calling you out right now, Chris, but he did a really great job of placing these carnivorous plants because they're not in any locations where they're hidden.
Right.
If you're looking, they're there.
Yeah.
But they're so cleverly placed that they're like right over this ledge, and a lot of that's map knowledge. Exactly.
Just said it's like Mario Kart.
It's like Mario Kart. But with map knowledge, you'll find out where these are at, and you'll be able to avoid them in the future. But as a monster, leading players through map hazards is a big part of the game.
Yeah, and it's so satisfying too.
Oh,
and like
totally.
as a monster, you turn around and you see them just like, what? I didn't incap them. Oh, they're in a plant. Yes. Especially when you're the last one up. And you're running around as a hunter, and your whole team is watching you, and you step in a plant, and it's just like, so fail. Wait.
Dropship banter?
Dropship.
The hunters win. Good job, guys. Dropship banter, that's all really dependent on the characters and how they interact with one another. And so as more DLC characters come online, the more extensive that dialogue library of dropship banter gets. And the more spiderwebby or interconnected, the characters start interacting.
They drop hints and stuff,
totally,
which is really fun.
Totally.
I mean, I was playing the other day, and it was all of the released hunters who were in the launch game, and I heard dropship banter I hadn't heard before.
I am still hearing things I haven't heard before.
Yeah, and I love that.
It's crazy. It's awesome. I love it.
You get these like weird little and like. It's one thing I love about Matt Colville's writing, and I tell him this probably too much to a borderline fangirl point, but like he writes these short stories and he puts together these little chunks of dialogue. And he's able to tell you so much about these characters in such a short period of time. And like, he builds an entire war, a historical event in, 10 lines. And it's really cool. And as a WoW player, I nerd out about lore. And there's, you know, it's just snuck in there in our game. It's kind of a sneaky fun thing.
I think we're being told to wrap it up.
Are we?
Yeah.
Is that? Aw, all right.
That time goes by so
do you guys
quickly.
have any
Jeez.
any final questions that we can answer for you? I haven't had any questions from the wonderful Anna in a minute. We did talk about sound a little, Craig.
We did.
I'm gonna have to get you in here at some point, and we can do a whole thing with just you.
Craig loves talking about sound.
He's out there,
Yeah.
which is why I'm leaning that way, and he's talking in my ear. Sneaky little sound man. Not that he's little, just. Do. We have a question. What's the question, Jess? No questions. Jess is trying to come up with a question on the spot, and she doesn't have any. Hopefully that means we've done our job really well and explained these maps and given you all the information that you need about them.
I think the takeaway from this stream would be that, you know, the new maps that you guys are going to get ready to play, they're completely different from the other maps that you've played. They play differently, they look differently, they feel differently. I think it'll revitalize your passion for playing in maps, or you know, when you play these maps, it'll revitalize your passion for Evolve. It really kind of hits home some key points that I'm really excited for the community to get in and play.
Yay!
Yeah.
And I think Xbox players, have we announced when things are coming out, Jess? I think we have. Never mind.
It's March 31st for the Xbox.
Yeah,
and then April 30th for the rest of
Okay.
The
I just had a moment of like, oh God, am I not supposed to say
I was
anything?
thinking, should I mention these dates?
Yes, dates
they
are
were
important.
on the internet, so I can mention them.
Yes. Thanks, guys, and thanks, Daniel, for joining me, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you later, guys.
Bye.